I think a starting point is understand what you own, right? That's always where we start off. Have a conversation of, what's your situation, what's going on, what is it you do have. We'd probably sign some kind of NDA with you, exchange some documents, make sure that you have the right to exchange those documents. And then very early on, we'd want to have a conversation with your GP, because, the GP is the power in the room, a lot of these, the decision maker that needs to be in on this. You can come to us and say, oh, I want to get out, but if your documents say that the GP decides that, then we really need to have a conversation with them as well. So it's very early on, we need to have that kind of tripartite conversation. Once we've had a look through it and understand what you own and understand like who you are, who the GP are, it's incredibly important, like the track record and reputation of a sponsor. We can go ahead and formulate a plan. We will have some ideas on where this might fit. Like, we speak to a lot of different types of investors, and, no two deals are going to suit everyone. So initially we'll have a think about that. And I think initially what we do as well is to understand if this is really something we can place, because we don't want to drag people through a process if there's something we don't think we will have the ability to place for them. So very early on, we try to learn as much about what you have, try to understand how it would fit with investor demand, and try to understand what kind of pricing you might be able to get on that. We don't do valuation, like we leave that to the investors. We obviously could, but what we focus in on is trying to find a valuation range, trying to understand what something like this might need to be offered at in order to find demand. I think that's the key for us. I mean, and I guess another thing to say is that when we work with people, we work on a success basis, and we get paid, percentage commissions. So, if nothing happens, you don't owe us anything. On the flip side, the more money you make, the more money we make. So we're aligned on that area. And in that respect, our ambition is to get the best price possible. So valuation range is trying to find a starting point and then go out and try to maximize that demand. So in that second stage, we would go out and start marketing. Once we feel comfortable that this is something we can place and that, there's substance to it and it's something that will fit our base, we can go out and we can start the marketing process. Hopefully ending at some form of auction process. Like, some deals are very niche, some are more mass market. We've seen incredibly niche deals. We've seen very, very bog standard ones, and the amount of demand you're going to have varies from deal to deal. But the idea is to get you as much exposure as we can. So that's relatively the process. And then what I would also say is that my experience with syndications is shorter than Jackson's, but what I've found out that no two deals are the same. This isn't a stock of IBM. And this is certainly not a fund share in Blackstone's fund number 13. Once you deal with these smaller deals, there are idiosyncrasies. There are, things you got to catch. Like, there is an incredible amount of, supporting documentation. So the process will not look the same for every deal we do. It will be slightly different. And that's just something that we deal with and we manage with the client.
Just to follow up, Simon, what are some of the things that affect a liquidity of, let's say, an equity position?
Well, I mean, ultimately, it comes down to demand, right? If you think about liquidity in a straight theoretical point of view, you're wondering about bid side liquidity, right? And the bid side liquidity comes down to how many investors are in the market and how big they are. That's ultimately it. And then it's almost like a match. We're more of a matching service than anything else. So if you have something that is a very standardized size, let's say Jackson said, if we have a position of somewhere between $5 to $15 million, there's a lot of people that would look at that. We deal with institutional investors. A lot of them would look at a size like that. So that gets us into a broader spectrum. If you come to us with $500,000, that narrows the spectrum down. If you there are all these different factors that come down to your position specifically, but then there also is a business cycle, I'd say, and preference element to this, right? Different points of the cycle, different investor preferences will shift immensely in just a matter of a month or even a week. You can have an incredible shift in appetite. I bet you there were people in January and February 2020 who were dying to get their hands on an office, who in April and May felt very different about offense investments. So demand for that particular position will change immensely, not just from what it looks like itself, but the environment it sits in. So yeah.